Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Bell to Bell with Bobby Blaze. This is episode 58, When Pro Wrestling Went Too Far. I am your host, Professor Jeremy Vilmer, and joining us now, the star of the show, Bobby Blaze. What's happening, Bobby?
I love you, Melanie, but please stop wearing your socks to bed. And for fuck's sake, learn to make me some decent biscuits and gravy or your ass not staying all night again. I'm doing fine, all things considered, Jeremy. Tell her to take them socks off.
Well, I didn't even know they made socks that went with flip-flops, but, you know, whatever.
Oh, man, no, socks and sandals and socks and flip-flops, not cool. No, get out of here with that. Anyway, yeah, I'm doing good, man. It's going to be back on here. It should be a fun episode, man. When pro wrestling went too far. Wow, we've got some good stuff on this list.
Yeah, well, at the very least, we got good stuff to talk about here.
Yes.
When you watch wrestling, you kind of, you give them your suspension of disbelief because you know you're going to be watching some things that are going to be kind of hard to swallow. Like, why did that guy get hit in the face 15 times, but he doesn't have a black eye the next week? You know, just there's stuff that you just have to give them. But sometimes, just through breaking logic or just being gross, they go too far.
Right. And I like that, as you said, breaking logic, because we had some, and I know we're not going to just go right into our honorable mentions or anything. We had some that, you know, just really that we eliminated. I think we started off with about 14. We went up to about 20, 22. And, of course, we narrowed it down to our 10. But, yeah, some of them were just like, it just broke logic, man. So it wasn't even use mentioning probably.
Yeah, you see them and you're like, that's not how that works. It's like when,
right.
You know, I grew up as, you know, the son of a plumber. I was a plumber. And then I watch a sitcom and a guy flushes a toilet and the next thing you know, his sink explodes. That's not how plumbing works.
Okay. Yeah. So we got rid of some of that. Yep. But we did get down to a really good 10.
Yeah, so. I think so. I think we've got a good 10 here. Now, before we get started, Bobby, I wanted to bring up a little something. You know, a lot of our customers and a lot of our listeners, I'm sure, are in the same position as us. They're entrepreneurs and have side gigs and things they need to get going. But you sometimes run into things you can't do yourself, like maybe designing a graphic or a logo or getting a voiceover or having your stuff tweeted to 150,000 people. We've got a place you can go to get help there, and that's Fiverr.
Yes.
And you can go to tinyurl.com/bbfiverr, just with the one R, but I did spell it differently than they spell their official name there. But that'll get you over to Fiverr through our affiliate link, so if you do spend money, you help out the show, which is awesome. Also, if you need a voiceover or you need somebody to tweet your message out a couple of times to a lot of followers, you can hit up me and Bobby on there, and Bobby wants you to tell them about our gigs. Yeah,
well, Jeremy's got great voiceovers. I actually ordered some work from him this past week. Commercial I'll be putting on Twitter here real soon. He's, of course, at Jeremy Vilmer. He'll give you that exact address in just a moment. Mine is Bobby Blaze 744. What I do is I'm doing a lot of tweets right now. Basically, my most recent gig, if you've got a podcast, for $5, I will advertise it on my Twitter account for 3 days in a row. Full ad if you got a graphic or your web link or whatever. I'm just doing a lot of podcasts. Of course, if you're a friend of the show and I'm already tweeting for you, that's not going to change any, but this is just an outside gig. It's only $5 and you usually get 3 to 5 tweets over a 3-day period. And then Jeremy, he done a tremendous 30-second commercial for me, using his voiceover talents because he's got a tremendous voice, as you all hear each and every week on this program. Why don't you just give those links,
sure.
Jeremy, to our individual. You already gave our affiliate account. Give them the individual link.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, to find Bobby on Fiverr, go to fiverr.com/BobbyBlaze744. And then to find me, you go to fiverr.com/Jeremy Vilmer. Of course, my name's a little trickier, Jeremy, and then Vilmer is V as in Victor, I-L, M as in Mary, U like Union, R as in Radar. And that will get you to our gigs on Fiverr.
There you go. We appreciate that too. So, let's get ready to jump. Do we have any shout-outs first?
Well, you know what?
I have one.
I think I'm going to go ahead and do one because it's one we left off the list, and it's one that always made my brain hurt. I got to give a shout-out to the time, or this was actually an honorable mention. I'm sorry. I jumped ahead of myself. Go ahead and give your shout-out, Bobby.
I just got one shout-out. If you like podcast, I'm going to be on the Rob and Slim show this Wednesday evening, 8:30. That's a live podcast. I think they rebroadcast a couple of times throughout the week after that. But on Wednesday night, I'll be live from 8:30 until 9 Eastern Standard Time. And that's at Rob and Slim. If you follow them on Twitter, they've got a really pretty funny, they talk about a whole bunch of shit. It's just talking and bullshit, good podcast that myself and Jeremy's both been on before, as a few other people. They have a lot of good guests usually during that 4-hour period. But I will be on there just talking smack and talking shit, probably some pro wrestling and other stuff this Wednesday evening at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. So I want to give those guys a shout out for having me back on their show this coming week. So
yeah, it's a good show. They land good guests. They're a lot of fun to talk to, and they're an entertaining listen.
Yes.
So check them out, especially this Wednesday when Bobby's on there. Go give Rob and Slim a listen.
There you go. That's my only shout out this week. Right. So go back to your honorable mentions. I know you said you had one there.
Well, yeah. So I'm going to go with the time that the giant fell to his death and then immediately showed up to wrestle a match afterwards.
Yeah, you cover that because that was going to be mine as well. So let's get that out of the way. No. We that was kind of that whole time period there. Around that time, that was just kind of what I was in my mind. So go ahead and tell them about that. And that's kind of how we arrived at this list. Is if it's too unrealistic, you just can't do it. I think even Tex mentioned that on the list. It wasn't worth putting on the list. So that's why it's kind of an honorable mention there. Yeah. Go ahead and tell them.
Well, yeah, it's
take some time too.
Hogan and the Giant had a sumo monster truck match on top of a casino in Vegas. And then something happened where they ended up outside the trucks, and then the Giant fell off the roof, and then in the next segment of the show or the second half of the pay-per-view or whatever, he comes out to wrestle, and they never mention it again.
Yeah, that's one of those things you just, your suspense has been blown,
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, the toilet water's coming out of sink, and it just don't work that way.
Exactly.
So, yeah, that was that whole time period I was talking about as well, when I was up there on the roofs with the limos and the Hummers, and then it went to the monster trucks, and then people's getting pushed over and crushed and this and that, and people's falling, and, still showing back up, like you said, in that one within the next hour, I guess, on that next segment, and that's just too unrealistic. And when you like your suspense, you like it just a little bit, man. Let's make it, as realistic as possible. But you have to suspend that belief just a little bit as well, as Jeremy mentioned on top of the show. So that's a real good honorable mention. This kind of lets you know which direction the show is going in, folks. On some of these that were believable, and some where pro wrestling just went way too fucking far.
Yeah, that's saying a mouthful. I guess I could also another honorable mention would be every time Triple H gets his hands on a sledgehammer. Because that's not how sledgehammers work.
Yeah.
You don't put your hand over the end and then use that to drive a spike into the ground and shit. That's the problem. You don't give wrestlers like machetes and shit they can't actually use,
Yeah.
You don't do it. Yeah. Well, Bobby, let's get started with our list. Why don't you give us number 10?
Okay, number 10 is kind of a 2-for-1. We're going to start with the original angle. It might have been done other places as well, but the first time that I think we both saw it was when Fritz Von Erich faked the heart attack in WCCW. And, of course, it was a draw of people into the building and into the next event. And then, just to try to get your ratings up, of course. But I guess Fritz faked the heart attack. And then in 1998, Flair done the same thing in WCW. And to me, that's just too far. So you can concentrate on either one of them. I was working for WCW, but I was not there at that particular night when that happened with Flair. But I do know, there was a lot of phone calls and stuff to WCW. People was talking about the next day, the TV tapings. And of course, Flair was out, I guess, dancing later that night, or at least having a good time like, only Ric Flair can. But back to the original top, one that Fritz. So let's talk a little bit about both of them if you want, or just either or. So
well,
Fritz Von Erich.
I mean, it's just tasteless to fake a heart attack, but also if you're going to fake a heart attack, take the guy off the road for a couple days. Yeah. I had a heart attack. You're in the hospital for 2 or 3 days. You're not out dancing that night.
That's what I was thinking. I wouldn't do that personally. I'd be afraid I'd have one the next damn day.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
absolutely.
I was going to say, but you've had one, so man. So you're out for the next 2 or 3 days. You're not on TV the next night or out dancing, like you said, or at the next event.
Yeah. Well, and then the Fritz one is especially egregious. Now, I guess Kevin says that Fritz never faked a heart attack or whatever, but watch it happen. Is every stereotypical seen on TV heart attack symptom comes up. Yeah. Also, several of Fritz's kids were dead by this point, and it just beat that fucking tragedy at WCW over the head repeatedly, and then tried to cash in on it, which is just, I don't know. It's going too far. It's just going too far.
I agree with you. You know, and then one thing I want to mention that we've talked about at the beginning of this, when we started doing this podcast together, here we're 58 episodes in. When we give this top 10, we're not trying to shit on anyone or say anything bad or nasty or negative about anyone. We're just giving you our views and our opinions as to how far wrestling, you know, when it did go too far, and whether he did or didn't supposedly fake it or whatever, he gave every TV indication, like you said, you know, that this is what he's doing. He's having a heart attack.
Yeah.
And that's just too far. And like you said, with the tragedies in that family and stuff, it's just like, man, it's just, it to me, it's tasteless. You know, is it worth the trade-off of the ratings or of drawing a crowd to your house shows or whatever it may be that you're trying to, you know, do? To me, it's just tasteless and it shouldn't be done.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm not passing judgment. I'm just saying, hey, I wouldn't want to do it, and I don't like it or didn't like it at the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you're saying there, you know, we try to not shit on anybody as much as possible. And we both understand. I mean, look, we do this show almost every week live without a net, and we try to do from memory when possible. So we sometimes step on our own feet. So we get it.
Absolutely.
You try things and not everything works. And we're just talking about times they didn't work. We're not saying they're terrible human beings.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, except maybe in a couple cases here and there.
Yeah. Okay, so that's number tits. Number tits. I look at Fritz and saying 10. So tits. Number 10, the tits. The Fritz Von Erich heart attack. And we tied in just a little bit too of Flair doing it again back in WCW. I know we've brought this number 9 up one time before. I forgot even what we was doing. I think it's because it was when we do love Roddy Piper. It was 10 things we love about Roddy Piper. I don't know how it came across on air because that was so many episodes ago, and I could be wrong when we was talking about it. Maybe his worst gimmicks or something. I don't even know. I mean, it might have been not why we loved Roddy Piper. But this one here, Jeremy, tell them what we're talking about in this particular Piper incident. That's just too far.
A number of years back, Piper was working on a program with Bad News, and he came out to the ring, or he went out for his interview before going to the ring in half blackface.
Yep.
You know, we're Americans. We've got a troubled history with blackface. I realize that maybe at the time this wouldn't have been considered tasteless, but I remember seeing it and thinking it was pretty damn tasteless, and I was a kid. Yeah. And, you know, I had that presence of mind to look at it and go like, oh, not a good look, guys. Not a good look.
Me being a little bit older and seeing that the same way when I saw it, I was like, ugh. You know, I know times have changed since then. So then it's probably just, you know, kind of walking across the tightrope there. Does it work? Does it not? But, you know, I didn't think it did. I thought it was completely unnecessary. Cause I got all the implications and the ramifications of it. I was like, yeah, that's, you know, you just don't do that, you know.
Yeah.
I was old enough to understand it. You're talking about, you know, a couple years difference between our age, and you're younger. You understood it. I damn sure understood it. So I know Piper and whoever approves it up there, they damn sure knew what they was doing with it, you know. So
yeah,
did it get over the time? Maybe, but did it go too far? Yeah, you know.
Yeah, and I realize, you know, again, we're looking at this back 25, 30 years ago, however long it's been, but you know, even then, I'd just say that it's a little too much. Now, I know they were using it to try to get him over, which really seems weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just too much. And I remember thinking that at the time.
You know, what's that saying? I don't know too much about the future, but the past is looking brighter every day. It's kind of one of those things. We're looking back, like you said, 30 years ago. So we can look at it now and say, yeah, you know, we're going by memory. We go by old footage maybe, or old stories or what have you. But looking back on it, we can see it perfectly now that, you know, maybe this wasn't the most tasteful thing to do.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly.
So number 10 was Fritz faking heart attack, and number 9 was Piper wearing a blackface, which is going to take us to number 8. And this is kind of a 2-for-1 as well, but we're going to talk mainly about one of them because I think they done it first. Jeremy, bring us up to number 8 here.
No, number 8 is the time that Raven crucified Sandman.
Yep. Too far.
Yep.
But as ECW, I think they expect shit like that. I don't know.
Oh yeah, and trust me, at the time when I saw that, I thought it was cool. But now I'm a little older and not as iconoclastic, and definitely not as bloodthirsty, and not as willing just to offend, 75% of the country right off the bat.
Right.
I mean, this was bad enough that Kurt Angle, who was there that night and thinking about joining ECW, told him, if you show me on TV at this event, I will sue your asses.
That's right. Good recall. That's why you're the professor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember when that took place. And I don't know, anytime you cross that line, really just religion or politics and things like that. You got to be really careful with that. And I guess even that audience, it's just the people there probably did love it. But then, like you said, you're offending like 75% of the country the other way. I wasn't offended, but it's just something I didn't like. It's not my cup of tea. The other one, because that was one of yours off your list, I think someone, I don't know if Text or someone else off the Twitter account, sent one in using that as well. I know later on Stone Cold done it with the Undertaker. Didn't Stone Cold get crucified as well during when Undertaker was he doing the Ministry of Darkness then or something? Maybe I don't know if that's the right time frame, but then you got it on a much larger scale due to the TV and the production with WWE doing it. Versus, ECW, even though they had their, big home crowd and they was doing pay-per-views and, pretty big company at the time, WWE rather is much more huge, and you're doing it, on mainstream on a pay-per-view or on a, that's just way too much probably. Of course, you can get by from on a pay-per-view and the manias and things. You do have to push it. And I understand that. And I know you have to get ratings. And to me, when you're doing that kind of a, crucifixion type thing, again, it's just whether it's Raven and Sandman or Undertaker doing it Stone Cold, that's on those guys to make those decisions to do it. I'm not a fan. I just think it went too far, and that's just my opinion.
First off, at least when they did it with the Undertaker, they crucified him on the Undertaker symbol and not a wooden cross.
Yeah.
Kinda, I think, helps take the sting out of it a little bit. And, Vince McMahon's never met a good idea he wouldn't steal. So.
There you go.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think they stole a couple off this show.
I think one or two, yeah.
Oh, man. Well, I'm going to tell you something, Jeremy. Guess what I done today before we went on the broadcast? You're not going to believe what I did.
You told Melody to get her feet off the coffee table.
Well, that's one damn thing before I sent her out here so we could do this podcast. But while she was here, I watched Dolomite, the original Dolomite from like 1975. And I watched it on Amazon Prime, man, if you can believe that. I watched Prime this morning, and it was Dolomite. And I'd been meaning to watch it, and I streamed it off my Amazon Prime account. I love my Amazon Prime. What can I say? Tell them about Amazon Prime, Jeremy, because I watched it, and I watched it because I know there's a new one coming out. There's a new Eddie Murphy one coming out, a remake. And a lot of times I don't like remakes, but I wanted to kind of catch up because it'd been a while since I saw Dolomite. So I just wanted to go back and watch it before the new one comes out to kind of refresh my memory. Anyway, I watched it on Prime. Go ahead.
Oh, well, Amazon Prime, as you can tell, offers a lot. God, I haven't seen Dolomite in 20 years. I haven't even thought of Rudy Ray Moore probably in 20 years. Amazon Prime, you get a free 30-day trial by going to tinyurl.com/bbtryprime. That is our affiliate link. You help the show out a little bit by trying it out. You can cancel at any time. But for a low yearly, and I believe they do monthly fees now as well, you get free 2-day shipping. In some markets, same-day shipping. And in some markets, you even get 2-hour shipping. You get a vast library of movies and TV shows and videos to watch for free through your streaming, through their streaming apps or accounts or whatever, however you sign into it, which includes Dolomite. Bob, you didn't notice if they had any of the Blackula movies, did you?
I think they do. And also, what's your favorite show on there?
Corner Gas.
Guess what? They've got a cartoon now.
You know what? They do, because that was announced when my ex-wife and I went up, and we actually had dinner with the guy who played Hank on that show and his wife right when that show was announced. So we were talking to him about him getting ready to start doing the voiceovers for that.
Well, there you go. I guess it's on there now. I know you like that particular program.
Oh yeah, so. Great show. If you haven't seen it and you like good sitcoms, check it out.
Yep. And again, go to tinyurl.com/bbtryprime. And that'd be great if you did that. It'd be a good experience for you. 30 days, no risk. You're not putting out anything. You help the program out. Jeremy smiles, I smile. And after 30 days, if you're not satisfied, just cancel it. That's all you got to do. But we appreciate it very much. Again, tinyurl.com/bbtryprime.
That's right.
That's that. Got to pay the bills, baby.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway.
Well, yeah, because we're gonna try to get to Cauliflower Alley one of these days, and hopefully meet up with some of our listeners. And to do that, we need some ad revenue, people.
Absolutely,
get
that's
out there.
The thing.
Yeah.
Some of these other podcasts, just let you know, they have their patrons and this and that. We opted not to do it at this point on the show. We always been keeping this show free and stuff. But anytime you can help the show, we appreciate it. The thing is, when you're doing Prime or you're using one of the Fiverr affiliate accounts and type things like that, it's not that Jeremy or our hosting fees or anything. A lot of it's going right back into the program. At this point, we haven't tried to make a dime off this program. We just put what we could. We had our GoFundMe. That money went to co-hosting fees for our monthly fee. So it's not like Jeremy or myself are trying to get rich or making a dadgum dime off of it. It's just that, you know what, it would be nice because one of our goals is to eventually go out to Cauliflower Alley and meet some of our listeners out there and enjoy a weekend of wrestling. So, or wrestling talk and get together or whatever. So that's just one of those things, just so people know we're not begging you to do these things, but it'd be nice if you do help out a little bit. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right. Let's keep rolling here.
Yep.
Okay. This one. Okay. Number 7, Mae Young giving birth to Sexual Chocolate's Mark Henry's hand baby, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. Oh man, I saw that. First of all, they done so. Mae Young came back, and the thing was, she performed. Hell, she had some matches. She showed her puppies, as they called them back then. I guess she flashed everyone. She took that big ass power bomb from one of the Dudleys and stuff. And you know what? I thought, holy shit, what one tough broad, man. I mean, all that, and plus she had been a performer for years. So to me, I was like, nothing but respect for that level, But then when you take it too far, of course, you had to, Mark Henry, and he was doing a sexual chocolate thing. But then you're going to have an 80-year-old lady giving birth. Not saying it couldn't happen, but just to a big hand or something, gooey looking hand or what have you. Like, okay, you're taking it just a little bit too far here because she was pretty good and pretty funny when they did bring her back in there. And I think she went above and beyond the call of duty. But having that hand, ugh.
I couldn't even figure out what they were trying to communicate. Was that like a sex toy that got lost in there, or?
Oh, you know what? Could have been. I don't know.
I just don't know what they were trying to communicate. With that storyline, it was just ridiculous looking. And then it looked like they just stuck that thing in a 55-gallon drum of KY jelly and then whipped it out. It was just. And here's the thing, Bobby. Mae Young had a storied and fantastic career as a wrestler. And as a woman in her, 70s or 80s at the time?
I think so, yeah.
Was fucking tougher than most guys.
Oh, yeah.
Then to put her through, and I get she was willing to do it. It's just, for me, when I watch like Jerry Briscoe, Pat Patterson, Mae Young get shit on by the company that they showing all this loyalty and openness to do this with, and then they just turn around and just make fucking jokes out of it. It's hard for me to watch.
I agree.
So that one is on the list for me because it goes over the line because it broke my brain in that what are they trying to communicate with the hand?
Yeah.
A hand is not a human child. You can't get pregnant and develop just a hand, Yeah. So then other than that, it's a sex toy that they got lost in there, I guess, is the other thing it could have been. But either way, it's all just like gross.
Yeah.
and defies logic completely.
Yeah. Well, that's why it's on this list.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on to number 6 here. And that's when the big boss man, I think it was WrestleMania 15. I put a question mark by that. I'm pretty sure that's when it was. But I guess when he was wrestling The Undertaker, again, I think it's around the time of the Minister of Darkness. I could be wrong on that. I think he was more of a heel type character, both of them. I'm not sure how he was even working it. Boss Man was just being boss man the way he was. But I guess they had the big blow off at the WrestleMania in a cage, and the noose was placed around Boss Man's neck, and I didn't go back and watch this. I'm just kind of going off of it. So as the cage rose up, or come above the ring or whatever, I guess the Undertaker had attached his neck to a noose and Boss Man was hung. Is that correct? Or a little bit close to it?
But that's the way I remember it. Yeah, as they raised the cage up, they put a noose around the Boss Man's neck and hanged him from it. Yeah. I don't know if WWE realizes that once you're dead, much like the Giant, you can't just show up again. I don't know why this is having so much trouble setting in on people.
Yeah.
When you are hanged, you are dead, 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 as the old judges used to say.
Right.
What are you trying to do here? Are you trying to communicate to the kids watching at home that, hey, we just killed the guy on TV and you're a witness? Is that, I mean, is that?
I don't know. You know, the way I look at it is like, even if they're killing off at angle, pun intended, you know, that's probably not the best way to do it, is kill a man, you know, because I don't know the time period. I'm just whether the guy's contract's up and he's just doing one final job before he goes to another company evening. You can't die on one TV program and be a character on the next night on like, you know, when it's Raw and Nitro or Monday Night Wars and those type things. I know you can on TV shows. You can be a different character. You can be on, you know, several different shows and be a character actor. But we're talking professional wrestling. And whether the boss man, you know, worked again the next night or went to another company or took 3 months off, you know, whatever, he's still, the fact is, like you said, it conveyed the message of he's dead, dead, dead. There's no reason or no logic to, okay, now he can come back as a different character or as himself or work for a different company or what have you. It's just not in good taste. You know, it's just, you got all those people live watching it. And then of course you got the millions of viewers across the land watching on pay-per-view. It's just, and one of the biggest pay-per-views on, you know, of the year, each and every year. And it's just, I don't know, just poor taste. That one of those things when pro wrestling went too far. So that made number 6 on our list.
I just don't get things like that. Like, I realize that McMahon doesn't care about kayfabe or, you know, even trying to keep you think what you're watching is realistic. But all the stuff where people die or, you know, I mean, just how do you go forward from that? I mean,
I don't know.
If you keep the guy on payroll, what are you going to put him under a hood for the next 15 years? You know, like, oh no. And, you know, the last time I checked, hanging somebody was illegal.
There you go.
You can't just go throw a noose around some dude because you had a fight and don't like him, you know?
Yeah.
Pretty sure
no logic, like you said.
Pretty sure they call that murder.
Yep. And we need to save that because we got another that's going to be really close to that, actually.
Yeah.
So let's jump to number 5. I'll let you introduce this one. I remember this a little bit. And you got, folks, just before Jeremy announced this next one, you got to remember the time frame, too, and then we'll go from there. So,
yeah, well, this would have been what? This would have been 17, 18 years ago.
That's
and
right.
Yeah, and look, our society has changed quite a bit in the last 20 years. And I think we went from 10% of the population being for gay marriage to like 60% in a 5-year span. But way back in the olden times of the early 2000s, Billy and Chuck were going to get gay married on an episode of Raw. Then during the ceremony, it turns out this was some plan foisted upon them by their evil gay manager, Rico. And then it turns out that the minister was Eric Bischoff anyways. And then, the modern Samoan SWAT team basically came out and just smashed the ring with these two guys. So going into this, GLAAD was like on the WWE side saying, hey, look, positive media representation of a gay couple in the mainstream. I mean, even though I think only 15 people were still watching wrestling at this point, but you know, they were like for it. And then they did this, and then GLAAD like pulled their name off everything and like, you know, formally complained about it. And
yeah,
it was just, I get it's a wrestling show. You need to have conflict and things, but I'm sure there's a better way to do this.
Yeah, I think so too. And of course, like you said, our society has come a long way. And people should be able to love who they want to love. And if they want to get married and they're happy, that's, hey, good luck to you, you know. You know, to exploit it like that, especially at that time, and then go one way, then come back another way, and then making fun of it, then not making fun of it. It's just one of those things. Again, it probably just went a little bit too far. Like I said, plus we're talking about just suspension of belief kind of thing is, okay, so you've got, the quote gay manager that's talked them into it, or then you got the minister, that's Bischoff. And we didn't go into that this week, what took place. And I'm just going to leave it out there at that, with all the stuff going on with the AEW and WWE and the NWA Power. We'll talk about that in another program. We just been really, you know, concentrating on this one here. But yeah, Bischoff being a minister of it. And oh man, it's just one of those things where, I don't know. It's just, to me, it's like at that time, I don't think, like you said, what, 10% of America at that time probably was, and now it's up quite a bit, but I don't think people are ready to sit there and see, you know, two grown men kissing on TV at that particular time on their wrestling program, Let me emphasize that, you know. So anyway, that's a good number 5.
That was the thing. They did this just to stoke people up, because you got to remember, this was around the time to get Bush reelected. Republicans in every state pushed to have anti-gay marriage measures put on their state ballots to get Republican and Christian turnout. This was a hot button issue at this point still. I mean, nowadays, I think for the most part, most of us would be like, nah, whatever, because I've got married gay friends now. Back then, you didn't, because it was still illegal.
Right.
So it was done just to soak people up and cause a problem. And here's the thing, again, lots of people in wrestling are gay. Pat Patterson has been openly gay since like the 80s. And he works for Vince McMahon. And I'm sure, he stands there and he has to just laugh this shit off, because that's your job.
Yeah. Yep, probably.
Yeah. And that's just kind of, I don't know, man. It just strikes me wrong. Kind
of what you said earlier. Vince hasn't had a good idea across his table. He hasn't at least willing to try it, see what happens with it. You mentioned that, so maybe that's one of those things that's thought, well, let's just give us a try and see what happens, throw some spaghetti against the wall and see what sticks and what doesn't,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But, yeah, so number 5, I'm going to go back through them real quick.
Yeah.
Number 10, the Fritz Von Erich heart attack, and then we also mentioned Flair's in there in WCW. Piper doing the blackface. The ECW, crucifixion of Raven versus Sandman, and also we mentioned The Undertaker and Stone Cold on that. Mae Young giving birth to a hand, that one there, whoa. Then we talked about Boss Man being hung from a cage by The Undertaker, and you just now heard number 5, that was number 6, or number 5 being WWE with Billy and Chuck gay marriage. While we're talking about that, we've got a YouTube channel I think needs plugged.
Yes, we do. Our YouTube is actually growing quite quickly. Tex has been a little bit busy. Tex down in the boiler room has been a little bit busy with his regular life. So, yes. Production slowed down on the videos a little bit now.
I know what happened on that. Let me interrupt you there. Mm-hmm. Shouldn't have fucking sent that TV down there during college football season. Oh. That's what's happened. And then we let them down in that boiler room. We sent him some lunch. We sent him some water. We sent him some supplies as needed. How he splices and cuts and puts this stuff together, he's down there busting his ass. I understand that. So we said, you know what? Let's at least give the guy TV. And we do, but we give it to him during fucking college football. Yeah. And of course, he's a big South Carolina and SEC fan. And, hey, I'm an SEC fan too, and I watch my share of college football, but not like that damn Tex. And I guess he's just busy watching his college football. But Tex, thank you very much for everything you do, and we appreciate the YouTube channel. I'll let Jeremy continue.
Does that make us football widows, Bobby?
I think so.
But anyhow, yeah, so Tex has been doing this, and initially he just contacted us as a fan saying, hey, I've done some TV production, and here's some videos I made. Do you mind if I put them on YouTube? And they were good. What he does is he takes and recontextualizes a lot of what we say, and sometimes he points out errors we made or facts we may have bumped over a little bit just to make our point. But he will take a segment of the show and break it down into a piece by itself and contextualize it with behind the scenes info, footage from what we're talking about. Maybe a little fact finding. If we didn't know the answer to something, he'll go and put a text on the screen saying what it was.
Right.
It's really good stuff. So if you get a chance, go check us out on YouTube at tinyurl.com/BBBB video. Take a look at our handiwork on there. Me and Bobby sound great, and Tex's visuals look great.
Absolutely. He does a tremendous job. And so just keep it up. He's in the middle of actually we've got our top 10 pro football players that became professional wrestlers, and I know he's working, I think, on number 5, if I'm not mistaken. So we have those tremendous lists up there of legitimate badasses. Some of those have gotten over 150,000 views. That's a testimony to Texas work right there into the YouTube channel. We've got top managers, regional baby faces, regional heels. The women that we've done very tastefully in Valentine's Day about putting them over. Again, it's at tinyurl.com/BBBB video. And I do know he is working on some things that will be out later this month, if not the first of next month. So we appreciate your text and, text, not text. And keep up the good work down there in the boiler room and enjoy all the fucking college football you want, buddy. You've got it. You've earned it.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, get over to YouTube. Check us out. There's lots of good stuff on there. And if you're anything like me, you'll end up falling down a 4-month-long wrestling hole in YouTube anyways. So.
Exactly. Yeah, we've both been there, and I'm sure Tex has too, doing all that research for us. So.
I am certain of it.
And I'm sure some of our listeners do, and that's a good thing, man. Hell, every once in a while, take some time, just watch one or two people or certain time periods or certain programs like the Memphis Wrestling or the old, WWF or whatever it is you want to watch, just it's a good thing. We talked about this a little bit last week, and I mentioned a little bit earlier. This is a really good time to be a pro wrestling fan. And if you don't find something that you like on a pay-per-view or on a weekly basis or what have you, go to YouTube, look up our videos or look up any videos, because it's a good time to be a wrestling fan, and that's a good thing.
It really is.
Anyway.
I have been enjoying the hell out of NWA.
Myself as well.
I get just enough like actual athletic wrestling competition. Plus a little kick of nostalgia. It's it's like, it is. It's like having Jim Crockett back a little bit,
Yep. I like it. I was really big on that first episode. I watched the second episode, and I have to tell you, I'm looking forward to this Tuesday at 6:05. You can watch it on Facebook or YouTube. I choose to watch it on YouTube, and I'm real happy if that 1 hour of wrestling I get, because it reminds me of wrestling. The way I like it.
Well, and the thing is, when it ends, I want more. I gotta wait till next week. But with and I remember the days from like Nitro and Raw when both shows were 3 fucking hours. God damn, I don't have 6 hours to watch wrestling on a Monday night.
Right.
But I can tell you what, I'll hold my breath for a week to watch another hour of NWA right now.
Yep. I am too. I know they've got another couple of shows in the can. I know they're shooting some more again in December. So, I'll keep looking forward to it, man.
Yeah. Bobby, let me ask you, because you've done this kind of thing before. So, I guess what they're doing is they're filming like 8 episodes in a weekend and then releasing them for 2 months and then filming again, right?
Yeah, that's my understanding, because I know, I don't think it's any spoiler to any of our listeners. I know, the Rock and Roll Express has won the 9 times NWA World Heavyweight Tag Team titles. Well, that hasn't aired yet, and that's one of the things I do like about it. Some of the stuff that hasn't aired, even though we have social media today, they haven't really overexposed all the other stuff that's happened on the next few tapings. I like that. I'm looking forward to it, even though I might know a little bit about this, a little bit about. But basically, what you do, you go into the studio, and of course, this is studio wrestling, and they're taping. Like you said, I don't know if they're doing 6 or 8. I would imagine it would be 8, because they did September and October at the 30th and the 1st, so that was 2 days. And the next ad I saw was for a December date. So I would imagine they got about 8 weeks of tapings in the can. So you go down there, and they probably shot 4 or 5 hours, probably 6 actually. And that's, you're talking, when you do that, guys, that's a 10 or 12, maybe a 14-hour day. Production has to get there. The wrestlers have to get there. You got a lot of stuff to do. But I would imagine they shot 4 on one day, 4 hours worth of TV, and then 4 hours on another day, and also put in the filler stuff, anything they, any other stuff they put behind the scenes that's going on. It's a long day.
Yeah.
But while that 1 hour is being taped, you're out there in front of that live studio audience. And that's the only difference. You're there at the live studio audience, and you're watching it just like they did back in the day, live, and then they're just, rebroadcasting it on as a studio product, again, Facebook or YouTube. But, I don't know that for a fact that they've done 4 and 4, but I would imagine that's what they did, Jeremy.
Yeah, I was curious about that, because back in the old days, something would get ruined by that. You'd find out that somebody was going to be TV champion, and then, These days, I think, because the way like you're saying, social media is like, you don't put everything out, but if there's something big, you let it out of the bag. That may get people to watch that episode when it comes out.
Absolutely. And, back when we shot like the worldwide tapings, those were shot for 3 months at a time. You're talking about being in Orlando for like 10 days in a row, and you're shooting 5 programs a day. So you're talking about 50 to 58 programs, depending on how many do each day. But generally it's about 5, or sometimes I got 6 in, depending on match segments. But you're talking about, again, 50 to 58 probably over a 3-month period. But a lot of those things on the worldwide, they didn't get into. Some guys may or may not have left the company, jump ship or whatever, had been released or what have you. And maybe they wasn't a former champion or whatever, but they still shot those segments because it was worldwide. And I don't think a whole lot was given away. And like I said, with social media now, it's good that I'm looking forward to seeing Ricky Robert on there to win the tag team titles, even though 9 times out of 10, I don't even want to know the outcome. outcome of a match, But to me, that's big news that they're 9-time world champions. So that's not going to deter me from watching that particular episode, because at this point I've watched 2 episodes and I haven't seen them. So guess what? I'm still looking forward to seeing my friends come out on her. Plus another couple of matches I know that I heard were really good matches, and I'm looking forward to seeing a couple guys work that I've heard about that I haven't had the pleasure of seeing yet. Mm-hmm. So again, whether you put it on social media for me or not, and I'm going to throw us out to Jeremy. I'm on Twitter at BobbyBlaze744. Jeremy's on at the Geekish Cast, and then we've got a joint account, Bell to Bell Blaze. Those are all on Twitter. There's a Facebook group. I do know that. I'm not involved in that, but that's a good thing that it's out there. But being back to the thing at hand, even though I know some of those outcomes and the matches have already taken place, end of last month, first of this month, I'm still going to watch the program because I'm that much interested in it, So there's no spoiler alert there for me. So
yeah. Also, I think Nick Aldis is ducking James Storm. I just, I got to get that out.
Yeah, I can see it building up, man. I see it building up. You're right.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, each week so far has kind of left me, okay, I can wait the next week now,
Yep.
Something to do on a Tuesday evening. So.
Oh, yeah, no, it's fun. And also, I did see where James Storm landed that super kick on Josephus, and then before he fell to the ground, he grabbed him and stuck the guy's own thumb in his mouth and then laid him down. That was one of the coolest things I'd seen in a while. That was a hell of a knockout. All right, let's get back to this list, shall we?
Let's go way back when. We're going to go all the way back to like about 1996, I think it is. No, that was when was that?
This was 2007, yeah.
2007, yeah. You brought this to my attention and said this one needs to be on the program, and I was sitting there going, I was trying to think about it, and I was taken away. We talked a bit off air. I'm going to go ahead and mention it because I know another tragedy. I thought it happened either that day or right around that same time period. And then you clarified it. I'm going to let you clarify it. I'll just throw it out there. Vince gets blown up. His limo gets blown up. And the way Jeremy worded this in the message to me about a CEO of a company and also the other thing that took place that was on my mind, I was like, yes, that was what year, 2007? Is that what you said?
It was 2007.
Okay, so Vince's limo gets blown up, correct?
Yes. It was at the end of the show. He's walking out doing kind of like a walk of shame while everybody's like lined up to, see him off. And then he gets in the limo and kaboom.
Kaboom, yeah. And I was thinking that was a night that another tragedy took place in wrestling that we hardly ever talk about here. We probably won't go into it too much detail. But then you brought to my attention that the other thing actually happened the following week, correct?
Yes. The other thing happened the following week, and that's why they had to suddenly drop this angle. But this is one of those ones I don't get. So you show him blow up on air on what is ostensibly a real-life program. He's the CEO of a $1 billion corporation that is publicly traded. Where were you going with this? I mean,
yeah, I'm wondering too. And I don't know if the other tragedy does not take place. I still don't know what they're going to do because Vince is going to be around at some capacity one way or the other. So, I don't think when you, like you said, you're talking about murdering someone. Someone just got murdered on live TV, basically. And maybe, him doing the walk of shame kind of thing, whatever. And then boom. And then next week they're back and he's back, of course. Something else, like I said, we talk about the other tragedy, kind of just, everyone's, I don't know. It's just crazy.
Just let the air out of everything.
Yeah. And so I think So Vince, if nothing else, I guess it helped at some point or another. Whether this was part of that, I don't know. That's when he became kind of a Mr. McMahon type. He started doing his more heel persona and stuff. Is that correct? Didn't that shortly happen after? That was after the fact, not necessarily from that angle. I'm just saying we got to see Vince. No, that was before that, correct?
Yeah, he'd been doing it probably for 7 or 8.
So he was already doing that. Yeah. But so the idea was if he does get killed, that's why I'm wondering what was the implication that if he gets killed, was he not going to be on TV as Mr. McMahon, or was he going to come back as Vince? Was he going to resurrect himself, or was he just going to stay behind the scenes? Because obviously he wasn't ready to give up the company back at that time because he's still holding on to it, So, I know he's let Triple H do a whole lot and Stephanie do a whole lot, but 2007, what was going to happen if the other tragedy didn't happen in real life and you're seeing someone being blown up on TV, and we're talking about wrestling going too far, what was Vince's end game on that? Do you have any idea where that could have went? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know where you go with that. I mean, you have him blow up. At some point, he's going to be in the news or something. Right. And now do you just act like it never happened, which the WWF or WWE does with storylines all the time. They just oh yeah, we'll just never mention that happening again. And in 3-4 years, people forget it anyways.
Yeah.
But I don't get okay, so now we're all witness to a murder on television.
Right.
Is this going to be a CSI show for the next year? I mean, what,
I don't know. Again, you're talking about a CEO of a corporation being blown up, so you're going to know that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's going to hit the mainstream news or whatever. So, yeah, I don't really know. I don't know what the end game was. I don't know. It's just one of those times. I'm going to live with this. It's just one of those times that pro wrestling went too far, man.
Yeah, it's just where do you've left yourself nowhere to go.
Yeah,
I mean, the way I see it. I mean, now.
That's kind of what we're talking about. You're right. You left nowhere to go. You've kind of painted yourself in a corner, if you will. And I guess the only justification for them is, hey, we're the WWE. We're going to do what the fuck we want to do. And like you said, in 2 or 3 months or 2 or 3 years, they'll bring it back with someone else or something else or what have you. I don't know. Like I said, maybe it becomes a CSI episode. Right now, you know what it is? It's a cold case file, by God.
Yes, it is.
So we'll leave it at that and jump to number 3. How's that?
Number 3. Yeah. Brian Pillman's got a gun.
Yeah, Pillman's got a gun, man. Huh.
Yep. Everybody run. Pillman's got a gun.
Involved in an angle of, Stone Cold Steve Austin. And, I don't know. I remember watching that. It's just one of those things you go too far. Tell us a little bit about it, Joe. I know that was a 96 one, if I'm not mistaken.
That was in 96.
Yeah.
And what was it? So Brian Pillman's at his home, and what was that guy's name? Kevin Kelly was there interviewing. So there's a camera crew and an interviewer, and Brian Pillman and his family, and then a bunch of Brian Pillman's friends surrounding the house because Stone Cold's coming to get him. And apparently whatever state Brian Pillman lives in doesn't have a police force, anti-stalking laws. The assault is apparently perfectly okay. Breaking and entering doesn't matter. I don't know where this is. It's in the South, I'm assuming. I've never heard of a state that exists. Yeah. I've never heard of a state that exists in this kind of way, but apparently, if somebody's coming to get you, you bring out the WWF there, and that's what you do.
That's it. Well, it actually did take place in Kentucky, up in northern Kentucky. Brian Pillman played for the Cincinnati Bengals a couple years there, and he went to school at the University of Miami. So he's locally grown, if you will. Mm-hmm. But he was living on the Kentucky side of the river down there in Ohio, metropolitan. That's now going to be called, actually, it's a greater Cincinnati area, and they're also going to have the Northern Kentucky 1, I think is what's going to be called, something like that, where that whole area up there. It's a real big area, but it was in Kentucky, like you said. We have guns here in Kentucky, Jeremy, just so you know. I just don't know if you hired I think they shot that out in Indiana, actually, is where the WWF was running that week. If I'm not mistaken, I think that's where the TV was, if I read it right. So again, it's not too far. You're only talking a couple hours drive over to Indianapolis from Cincinnati area. So wherever it is at in Indiana, rather, shooting at, I'm sure so it doesn't put them too far from Pillman's home. Now, do you go ahead and call the camera crew? I'm not sure about that. Yeah. Send over some goof to record this. Someone's about to break into my home. Again, Kentucky people, a lot of them have guns in their home. Mm-hmm. That's your right at this point. I don't know if you call a camera crew and say someone's come to get me and have all that stuff filmed or not. But that's kind of what took place. And I recall something about, was someone in bed with someone? What was all that there was a whole angle around all this, right?
Oh, there was like a whole build up to it. And it started with what. So I guess if I remember right, because Pillman and Austin were a tag team in WCW.
Yes.
And so when Pillman first gets to WWE or WWF at the time, he goes and teams up with Austin, and then he's basically playing his lackey, and then he starts siding more and more with Bret Hart. I don't know. The whole thing was just kind of dumb. And I went back and read a little bit about it this morning, just trying to remember things.
Yeah.
And the more I read about it, I was like, this whole thing gets stupider the more you look at it.
Yeah.
But basically, you know, Austin's coming to get him. Brian Pillman brandishes a firearm a few times. Also, you know what? We got guns here in Northern California too, Bobby.
Yeah.
I got a 357 loaded with 38 hollow points in my bedside table drawer just in case. I grew up shit. I got my first gun when I was 6. You know.
Damn.
Yeah. But so he brandishes a firearm, and then Stone Cold gets there, and then there's a little scuffle, and then the camera goes down, and Kevin Kelly says he hears a couple explosions, and then somebody's dragging Stone Cold out of the house, and Brian Pillman's got a gun on him, and then Brian Pillman says, "Get out of the fucking way." And that's what ended up killing the bit. He said it on live TV.
Yeah. So I guess also, you know, just kind of remember back. So I guess Stone Cold's outside the house making a shitload of noise, beating up the camera crew or whatever to go inside the house, which you probably wouldn't do if you're trying to go after someone. You probably want to be a little more sneaky and this and that. Again, if we just went too far trying to over dramatization, making a TV show out of a wrestling show, if that makes sense. Not being a wrestling show about wrestling. It was a television show that had a wrestling element in it, or in this case, there was no wrestling, just wrestlers involved in the actual angle that should be taking place in the ring. But so Stone Cold goes to his house, and Pillman's being interviewed with his wife and this and that, and eventually, you know, he just, like you said, shows up and Pillman's got a gun, you know. So to me, it's just too far. I don't know. He's sitting there with the gun being interviewed, you know, and it's just, I don't know. And again, at this point, I know this is a little bit, if it's not Attitude Era, it's just the beginning of it, if I'm not mistaken, at 95, 96, 97. That's kind of the time frame. Again, I know it's at one point, WWF or WWE was, you know, target market, you know, a lot of kids and stuff back in the 80s doing the superstar stuff. So again, some of the guys that were younger, that was growing up and watching and developing with the product, are now in their teens or early 20s. And the product does change over at 10 or 15 year period, the whole attitude thing. But again, bringing a gun on TV, probably not the most appropriate thing if you still had a smaller or younger audience. But at that point, you know, you still got some of those guys, like I said, lingering around as wrestling fans. That demographic at that point probably was 17 to 34. That still might be the best target audience to show people hanging themselves, a lady having, you know, giving birth to a fucking hand, gay marriages at that time, or someone pulling a fucking gun on someone at that time.
Well,
so
home
invasions and guns, you know, it's just that needs to be a CSI or a fucking cold case TV show, not a fucking wrestling show.
Well, that's the thing. It's okay. So going back to what I said about a machete, don't put something in a wrestler's hand they can't use. You know, that's the problem with the sledgehammer with Triple H. He gets a hold of the sledgehammer, you're thinking, oh, fuck, somebody's in trouble. And then he puts his hand on the end of it and rams him.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So why did you do that? Why not just pick up a chair? It didn't have to be a sledgehammer. You could have given him any blunt object would have worked.
Yeah. And now, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, but now you put a gun in this guy's hand, and Brian Pillman's supposed to be this loose cannon.
Right.
And some dude's breaking into his house. Any of us would shoot somebody for kicking in our front door. If the gun's already in your hand, you're going to open fire. It's a pistol. You shoot them a bunch of times. You keep shooting them until they hit the ground. Boom. Done. End of story. Where the hell were you going with this story? What was your game plan?
Yeah. I don't know. It's one of and here's the thing. I know it's taking place at his home and it's outside there. Again, you got the recording people out there. So again, to me at that point, even though it's a little vignette or whatever, it's one of those things where it just went too far because you're outside the wrestling arena, you're outside the wrestling ring, and you don't have really an end game other than someone could get shot and killed, or probably would have been shot and killed, or at least shot and wounded. Where do you go with it? I don't know, but there's really no end game. And like you're using the Triple H thing with sledgehammer thing, I know, like, and to me, people that use ladders, chairs, tables, and things like that. Okay, yeah, originally you're looking at stuff that can be used that's around the ring that's accessible if you're a cheating heel.
Yes.
Or you've got that hot finish. Okay, well then, yeah, you know what? I've been around enough wrestling rings. You probably do have a toolbox underneath there. So someone at some point might have grabbed a screwdriver or a ball peen hammer or something, that's one thing. And again, the chair is available. But then, okay, why is there the fucking ladder there? Okay, maybe you're putting a belt up or a pole match or, something like that. Possibly, tables are always around there. Again, you got to suspend your belief a little bit. But when you're going outside the arena and talking, there's probably not a sledgehammer there. There may be one in the back, of the arena. They may need one to drive some poles out front or something. I don't know. I'm just saying. Yeah. But again, you're talking about to try to keep it somewhat believable and not suspend your belief too much. I don't know. Again, it was a vignette. I'm just stumbling there saying this. When we said number 3 is Pillman's got a gun, that's when one of those days pro wrestling just went too far, man. Yeah. So that's kind of our topic, and I'm just going to leave it at that for the Pillman thing because I don't think they had an end game.
Yeah, I don't get where you're going with that. I guess long and short of this is keep your wrestling action in the wrestling ring or on the stage across the walkway from it. Don't, unless you got something really specific to do, don't go to somebody's house. That shit with the 4 horsemen breaking Dusty's hand, that was kind of dumb too. Well, let's keep moving because I'm sure I can talk about that for an hour, but yeah.
Well, but here's the thing, our audience, our fans, and we appreciate y'all listening to the podcast each and every week. We do. I think they know we talk a lot about trying to make it and keep it realistic and keeping it more like a professional wrestling style, not a sports gimmick. Yeah. So anyway, Jeremy, I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to tell you something. Before we go into number 2 and number 1, let me just give us our show a little plug here. Each and every week I do this, or Jeremy will. I'm going to throw it to myself real quick. I've got 2 books. They're both available on Amazon. I got Pin Me, Pay Me, Have Boots Will Travel. And I got my second book. I kicked out on 2, The Educational Wrestler. Right now, by the time you hear this, you'll only be a few weeks away from Christmas, folks. You'll be at the end of end of October by the time you hear this. So if you already got one of my books, get one for the wrestling fan in your family or one of your friends that may like some old school wrestling stories. The way you do that, if you want Pin Me, Pay Me, that's my first book. Again, you can go to Amazon, you can download them, or if you'd like, you could help out the program. And I know the professor over there would appreciate this, as I mentioned earlier, and so would I. He gets a smile on his face because we get $1 or $2 to help our co-hosting fees. I get a smile because I get $1 or $2 for selling a book to you. But I'm not trying to sell you one. I'm just letting you know they're out there. Some of the other podcasts have given books away. There's going to be in the next few weeks. We're going to give a couple away on this program. I'm not sure how we're going to do it in this program, but I am going to give a couple books away. Just for being loyal listeners, there's a chance, again, we haven't come up with a way we're going to do this, but I am going to give a couple away prior to Christmas. But in the meantime, go to tinyurl.com/blazebook1 and you can get Pin Me, Pay Me. If you go to tinyurl.com/blazebook2, you can get I Kicked Out on 2, The Educational Wrestler. Again, put a smile on a professor's face, put a smile on my face. I don't know how many listeners out there, out of 2,000 or so that listen each and every month or so. Your chances of winning one is, you do the math. But again, I'm going to give a couple away. We'll see how that goes. But in the meantime, if you'd like to purchase one, please do. Go to tinyurl.com/blazebook1 or tinyurl.com/blazebook2. And I'm going to shut up about the books, Jeremy.
No, it's, here's the thing. Part of the purpose of this show is to be a vehicle to help sell your books. That's part of why this exists. You're a good storyteller. That's why I had the idea in the first place to start a podcast with you. So selling the books is important. Definitely, absolutely. If you do not already own his 2 books, please go buy them. If you do own them and have friends and family members who are into wrestling that don't own them, buy them a copy. The holidays are coming, Yep. Get them, get your kids a Hanukkah gift and give them that, Yeah. If nothing else, buy a copy of the book and give it to your local library.
Yes, and you know what? My local library now has mine. It'll probably be on the shelf this week. I went to an independent authors special last Saturday. Spent 3 hours down there. I wasn't on a panel. I was invited. I was on a panel last year. But I visit the local library a couple of times a week. But I got a nice email from one of the, head up the department there. And this year I just went down there and told them in person. I said, hey, you all see me down here a lot. I said, I'm not going to be at a panel, but I'm going to come and support these other authors. And they had about 12 Kentucky authors down there, independent authors. And I went down, I just, Q&As and things like that because I want to get get as much experience as I can, kind of pay my dues, if you will. They already said next year, Bobby, would you be back on the panel again? I said, yeah, I just wanted a year off, but because I've been on it twice now out of the 3 years they've had it. So anyway, they took my book and they had Pin Me, Pay Me for the last couple years, and they now have, I kicked out on two at the Bowie County Public Library at the Ashland branch, and you can get, there's three branches, and you can get my book down there. It'll be out on the shelf, I think, next Friday, if I'm not mistaken. So if you're in the Ashland area, greater tri-state area, they've got Pin Me, Pay Me, and they've got I kicked out on two. And like Jeremy said there, buy a copy and donate it to your local library. That'd be a really, really cool thing, I think. Give it as a donation to a library. Leave one laying around somewhere where, an airport or a hotel room or something like that, where someone might find it that says, wow, I think I'll read this, That'd be real cool. So thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, Bobby, you just brought up, and you're kind of in that same media market, the Cincinnati media market, partially, Kentucky shares a big part of that.
Yeah.
And it makes me think about that time in 1978 where that radio station dropped all those live turkeys on people.
Oh, yeah. WKRP down there, right? Yeah. What was the problem with those turkeys?
Oh, all right. Let's move on.
Let's go to number 2 here.
Oh.
All right. I remember this, and I did remember it. Does that make sense? It's one of those things, I just put it out there to Jeremy and to Tex. And it was one of those things like I knew this happened. I was watching at the time, but I didn't remember the whole storyline. But basically it goes like this. Kane kidnapped Lita. He rapes her. He forced her to marry him. He gets upset to have a baby. I don't know. Then she eventually falls in love, but then I wasn't sure on this part if she had a miscarriage or she didn't. Again, to me, that's no laughing matter on that. It went too far, but I guess I forgot this, but Tex sent this part of it, said Snitsky, punted the fake baby. So I don't even know if she delivered it. How did all that, it's just to me, Jeremy, this here. I like Kane. Glenn's a hell of a good dude, okay? I love the character, the Big Red Machine, etc. Lita, I thought was so fucking talented. Go back and listen to our woman's episode on Lita. We put her over huge because she was such a great in-ring talent as a performer. And then she's caught up in this thing. So all I'm going to say is this, and I'll throw it to you. This whole angle to me was more fucked up than a can of fishing worms.
I don't remember this, and I went and read about it this morning, and I don't even know where to fucking start with this one, Bobby.
Exactly. Okay. I think I summed it up what Tex said.
Yeah, it just what
is something, or how do you get them ratings? What was it you said earlier? I think you either texted it to me or you read it. You said something off the air about rape, murder. What was the whole thing? You said something about I can't remember how you said rape and miscarriages or rape and abortions or something.
Nothing says good TV like kidnapping and rape,
There you go. That's what it was. So let's just end this number 2 on this, because again, it was more fucked up than a can of fishing worms. If you want your ratings to go up, apparently you have to fucking kidnap and rape people. And I just don't know what your fucking end game on that is at all, because to me, both of those things are way too fucking wrong. I don't remember if she did or did not have the baby. I'm going by what Tex said. Apparently something happened because Snitsky come out and punch something. Maybe it's a fucking hand for all I know. I'm just going to say this before we go number 1. That's when pro wrestling went too far on that angle there. That was number 2. And I'll let Jeremy kick us into number 1. And I had to refresh myself with this one this morning because several people sent it to me on my Twitter account. I think you mentioned it. I know Tex mentioned it. And I was just like, wait a minute, let me double check. I even wrote you a note. Let me double check. And about 10 minutes later, I said, okay, that's on the list somewhere, Jeremy. And then I went and watched a couple other things. But anyway, what is it, number 1, Jeremy?
Well, number 1 is Katie Vick. Oh, Jesus.
I was like, who the fuck is Katie Vick? Wait a minute, what did I miss here? And as soon as I pulled it up, I was like, okay, I know where this is going. Oh, okay. So, I guess necrophiliac, you can throw it in there. Necrophilia, you can throw it in there for murder, rape, and fucking dead people. I guess Triple H dressed up as Big Red Machine once again, and he's in a funeral parlor in the back, and I guess there's a girl in there in the coffin, and that's Miss Katie Vick, and it's Triple H trying to expose the Big Red Machine for being a sick person, and Anyway, he fills her up, first of all. That's just not right. You don't go to fucking funerals and fill people up. I'm sorry.
No.
You know. Well, then he removed her bra, and he's hearing voices like fucking Richie from Dust to Dawn, you know. Mm-hmm. Oh, yes, I'll eat your pussy, of course, you know, or whatever. I can do that for you. So eventually he strips her little cheerleading panties off and climbs in a coffin with her and proceeds to, they do have the decency to cut away the candles and fucking music and flowers and this and that. I'm like, wait a minute, everyone knows what's fucking going on. The only thing about the bit is, again, this is number one because it's too fucking sick. Pro wrestling has went too far. Triple H was talking to a stiff and he says, speaking of stiff, okay, so he thinks he throws in a couple little, witty little sayings here or there. At the end, he grabs her head, pulls the brain and said, oh, I did fuck your brains out. Okay. That I guess is enough to say, okay, if you really believed in this, you shouldn't be getting upset about it because you can see it's just a bit, folks. It's just a vignette with Triple H fucking a corpse, okay? So that's the bigger picture. Go ahead. We can kidnap, we can murder, and we can fucking have necrophiliacs on our fucking program because we need ratings. To me, Jeremy, I'm saying that's when pro wrestling went too far.
2002, wasn't that also a period where they were trying to refocus on getting kids to watch again?
Oh, geez.
So, I don't know. Bobby, I just don't even know where to go with this one.
I'm going to say this, Jeremy. Thanks for another great episode. I hope everyone enjoyed the top 10 list of when pro wrestling went too far. I'm just going to say, hey, I'm Bobby Blaze. Follow me on Twitter at 744. I'd appreciate it very much. I have some good interaction there. Jeremy, I'll let you close out the show, and I'm just going to say, hey, fans, thanks for being friends and fans of the program. I appreciate you. The professor appreciates you. And just take care of each other out there. The world's tough. You just be tougher. And show some kindness, spread some kindness, show some love, spread some love, and take care of each other. And I'm out of here, Jeremy, because that's just fucked up as a can of fish and worms.
This was like stepping on a landmine, man. I don't even know. Yeah, I think the only thing we can do now is wrap this show up because once Katie Vick shows up, that pretty much means that your ratings are as low as they're going to get and your stock has fallen as low as it possibly can. The month that Katie Vick was brought up on the show was the lowest in the history of WWE stock value ever. And that's all there is to it. All right, everybody, thank you for listening. We do appreciate it very much. It has been a pleasure to have you. It's been your pleasure to listen to Bell to Bell with Bobby Blaze. Bye-bye, everybody.